Welcome to my channel Limelight Leaks. Please share and subscribe and hit the bell icon for new updates. Before TV cameras, before his car shop became famous, Mark Worman was just a quiet kid in Springfield, Oregon. He loved things that most kids didn't care about. Things like bolt patterns, car tags, and the way a Dodge Charger's engine sounded. Like thunder rolling on the ground? While other kids his age were chasing girls or learning football plays, Mark had his arms deep in junkyard car engines. He memorized part numbers and learned everything about Mopar cars, like his life depended on it. His childhood wasn't easy or fancy. Mark's dad died when he was only 12 years old. This left a big, empty hole in his heart. He filled that hole with books, car manuals, and later with tools. Cars, especially Mopars, became his way to escape. Plymouths and Dodges weren't just cool cars to him. They gave his life meaning. And back then, they meant something else too. They gave him control when his world felt crazy and mixed up. By high school, Mark could talk about cars better than most mechanics in town. He wasn't just learning how engines worked. He was learning how every car model, every style, every car number from Detroit's best years had a personality. A 1970. Cuda wasn't just a car to him. It's like a piece of American history frozen in time. And he believed every car had a story that should be saved. But not everyone saw beauty in rusty, old car shells, or sun-faded car parts. His friends called them junk. Mark called them treasures. And while others gave up on old cars, Mark started. Dreaming big? What if these Mopar cars could be brought back? Not just fixed to run, but made exactly like they were when they left the factory. What if you could bring history back to life? That idea, born in a small Oregon town, would one day become the main dream behind Graveyard Carz. In the early 2000s, Mark Worman wasn't on TV yet. He was under bright lights in a dusty shop on the edge of Springfield, chasing a dream that I really understood. He had a few wrecked Mopar cars, a stubborn dream, and barely enough money to keep the lights on. But what he didn't have in money, he made up for with his obsession. This wasn't about buying and selling cars for profit. It was about fixing the souls of cars on wheels. It was about bringing Detroit's lost muscle cars back to life, one bolt at a time. The first Graveyard Carz project wasn't fancy or glamorous. It was a totaled 1971 Plymouth Cuda, a pile of metal that most shops would have thrown away. But Mark saw something different. He believed if you could bring a car like that back perfectly, with all the right numbers matching, down to the inspection marks, then maybe the past wasn't really lost forever. That first project took months, countless hours, and almost made him go broke. But when it was finished, it looked like a factory time machine. Word spread around, and hardcore Mopar fans started paying attention. Mark wasn't just fixing cars. He was writing everything down, recreating factory details so perfectly that history experts started calling him for help. What had started as his personal obsession was turning into a movement. Graveyard Carz, the shop. This became known as a place where Mopar cars weren't just repaired, they were reborn. But Mark knew he needed more than just tools. He needed a bigger platform, something bigger to save these car stories, something that would change everything. Television Mark didn't go looking for a TV show. The idea came from a local TV producer who walked into the shop and saw something rare. Cars in pieces, workers arguing, and a man obsessing over whether a firewall bolt was original. It wasn't fake or scripted. It was real. That realness, combined with Mark's encyclopedia-like knowledge and dry sense of humor, sparked the idea for Graveyard Carz. It would be a reality TV series that followed the resurrection of the rarest Mopar cars ever built. When filming started, Mark wasn't sure about it. He didn't care about being famous. He cared about facts, paint codes, car tags, and the truth. But TV producers wanted drama, conflict, and storylines. And while the show became popular, it also began pulling Mark in two different directions. On one hand, it brought attention and money to the shop. On the other hand, it messed up the purity of what he loved. There were deadlines now, scripts, and fans expecting entertainment, not education. Mark struggled to balance it all. While others in the shop joked around or acted silly on camera, he worried about valve covers being dated correctly. Viewers came for the cars, but stayed for the team chemistry, and Mark's perfectionism stood out. He wasn't acting. he was preserving history. Each episode became a tug-of-war between what TV demanded and keeping his work honest. Still, being on TV gave Graveyard Carz fans all over the world. Mopar purists, history lovers, and collectors now look to Mark as the high priest of car resurrection. But that spotlight came with a price and would soon put pressure on every relationship in the shop. Mark Worman doesn't just restore cars, he recreates history. While other car builders might put in new crate motors or take liberties with custom upgrades, Mark goes the opposite way. Every nut, every bolt, every chalk mark has to match exactly how the car left the factory in 1969 or 1970. He tracks down original suppliers, figures out broadcast sheets, and even copies overspray patterns on the bottom of cars. To outsiders, it seems borderline crazy. To Mark, there's no other way. This obsession isn't for show. He once delayed an entire car build for weeks over a missing inspection stamp under a rear quarter panel. He's been known to scrap and repaint an entire car if the color code doesn't perfectly match the original spray. And if a part isn't correct, he won't put it on. He'll wait, research, dig through piles of catalogs and old dealership records until he finds what's factory correct. That level of commitment has earned him respect and criticism. Some fans worship his dedication. Others think it borders on madness. But Mark doesn't care. Because for him, restoring a Mopar isn't just about muscle cars. It's about memory. It's about honoring the original engineers, the forgotten factory workers, and the legacy of Detroit iron. But this obsessive accuracy creates stress on the crew, on timelines, and especially on Mark himself. While others settle for good enough, Mark pushes for the impossible. Because in his world, there's no such thing as close. There's only correct. Behind the polished cars and televised smiles, Graveyard Carz has seen its fair share of tension. At the center of it all is Mark's unwavering demand for perfection. While the audience often laughs at the on-screen banter, those closest to the shop know it's not all jokes. Mark's high standards, his exact attention to detail, and his insistence on historical accuracy have created rifts within his team. Some former crew members quietly left the show, Others had more public exits, often following disagreements over workmanship, quality, or attitude. Mark doesn't tolerate shortcuts. If a weld is off, redo it. If a part is reproduction, not original, pull it out. For a mechanic just trying to get the car out the door, it can feel like micromanagement. For Mark, it's a line in the sand. Either we do it right or we don't do it all. Episodes have shown heated arguments, cold silences, and even walkouts. But what the show doesn't always reveal is the emotional toll behind those moments. Mark takes each mistake personally, not out of ego, but out of duty. Every misstep, every overlooked detail feels like a betrayal to the history he's sworn to preserve. Still, Mark isn't heartless. He trains his crew, he teaches, he pushes them to grow. Not just as builders, but as preservationists. Many who've stayed with him say the same thing. Working under Mark is tough, but it makes you better. Because when you finally meet his standard, you've done something extraordinary. The toll of perfection doesn't just hit the builds, it hits the builder. Over the years, Mark Worman has quietly battled the physical and mental strain of running. Graveyard Carz, the long hours, the production demands, the endless checklists. It wears on a person. Fans see the episodes, the gleaming restorations, but they don't see the 14-hour days, the sore backs, the sleepless nights, replaying weather. A stripe was 1/16 of an inch off. Mark has admitted that the show and his own expectations have pushed him to the edge more than once. The pressure to deliver not just high-quality restorations, but high-quality television is a balancing act few could handle. Especially when every car that leaves the shop carries his name, his reputation, and his legacy. Physically, the years of shop work haven't been kind. Mark's dealt with chronic back pain, stress-related ailments, and fatigue. He rarely talks about it on camera. But those close to him know. His health has been a quiet cost of his obsession, And mentally, the stakes only get higher, Every build is a chance to get it right or a risk to tarnish everything he's built. And yet, he keeps going. Not because he has to, but because he can't not. Mark doesn't know how to do anything halfway. The thought of cutting corners or letting someone else take over just isn't in his DNA. Even when it hurts, he pushes forward. Because for Mark, burnout isn't a reason to stop. It's just another problem to restore. One of the most complex chapters. In Mark's journey is the blend of business and blood, especially his decision to bring his daughter Elisa Rose into the Graveyard Carz world. At first, it seemed like a natural fit. Lisa had grown up around Mopars. She had the Worman eye for detail, and her presence added a unique layer to the show. But mixing family with high-pressure perfection, it wasn't always smooth. Mark holds his family to the same. It's high standards he holds himself. For Elisa, that meant learning fast, failing hard, and proving she could earn her place. Not just as his daughter, but as a legitimate part of the team. While the cameras caught some of the awkward moments, they rarely captured the deeper conversations, the expectations. While legacy.times, the shop's stress crept into their personal lives. Mark's obsession with work made it hard to separate. Weekends from weekdays, family dinners from vendor measurements. And yet, the bond between them remained because underneath the pressure was a shared mission to honor the cars. The stories, and the name Worman. Their dynamic became a metaphor for the show itself. Tradition meeting the next generation. Restoration. It's both a trade and a bond. And while Mark's path was forged in solitude, bringing Elisa in offered something new. A chance to pass on not just skills, but a purpose. Still, legacy comes with weight. For Mark, ensuring the graveyard standard lives on. Even after he steps away, may be the biggest restoration project of all. Not every resurrection ends in triumph. For Mark Worman, some Mopars were more than just wrecks. They were emotional. Anchors? The ones that came through the garage doors as twisted shells, missing pieces, rusted beyond recognition. These were the cars that tested not just his skills, but his soul. A totaled 1970 Cuda that had once belonged to a Vietnam vet. K-Charger with no VIN, no provenance, just a whisper of a memory. These weren't just builds, they were puzzles with missing pieces and ticking clocks. Some of these restorations stretched for years. Funding ran dry. Parts became impossible to find. The crew burned out. Cameras rolled, then stopped. And still, Mark pushed forward because to give up wasn't an option. Not when the car represented someone's father, someone's youth, someone's American dream. There were moments off camera when even Mark questioned if it was worth it, when the pressure, the cost, and the heartbreak made him want to walk away. Never did. He couldn't because to leave a Mopar behind was to betray the very purpose that built Graveyard Carz, and sometimes, after all the struggle, the car still didn't come out perfect. A flawed panel, a non-matching number, a detail only Mark would notice. But to him, it was everything. These builds haunted him. They reminded him that even legends can lose, but they also kept him human. Each imperfect car became a scar in his legacy, a reminder that obsession isn't always rewarded, and that not every ghost wants to be resurrected. Mark Worman doesn't chase fame. He never wanted to be a reality TV star. He didn't script the drama or seek the spotlight. What he did want was simple. To save history, Graveyard Carz wasn't born for ratings. It was born from reverence. Every bolt torqued to factory spec. Sticker applied exactly as Chrysler once did. It's not just a process, it's a tribute. For Mark, Mopars are more than muscle cars. They're relics. They represent a time in America when craftsmanship mattered, when performance was raw, and when cars had character. He believes every vehicle that rolls out of his shop is a time capsule preserving the sound, feel, and spirit of a bygone era. That's why he spends hours verifying paint codes. That's why he'll delay a build for a correct carburetor. It's not ego, it's duty. Because once the last original Mopar is gone, altered, restomodded, or junked, so is the history that came with it. And this mission, it's lonely, as people don't understand why it matters. Sponsors push for deadlines. Fans ask for more drama. Crew members grow tired, but Mark stands firm even when it costs him money, sleep, and sometimes relationships. Because for him, the cars matter more than the cameras. In every restoration, in every late night under fluorescent lights, Mark is chasing something deeper, meaning. and for a man who's given his life to metal and memory. That mission is everything. Mark Worman has become a legend in the Mopar world. Not because he wanted to be, but because he refused to be anything else. Graveyard Carz isn't just a shop or a show. It's a manifestation of one man's refusal to let history die. And while fans see the finished cars, the final shots, the polished paint, they rarely see what it cost to get there. Behind every frame is sacrifice. His health frayed, his relationships tested, his sanity stretched thin by a quest for absolute accuracy. But in a world that celebrates shortcuts and celebrates style over substance, Mark chose a different path. One paved in primer, sandpaper, and steel. His impact ripples far beyond Springfield. Young builders now look to his methods. Museums reach out for restoration insights. Original owners shed tears when they see their youth resurrected. And Mark, he still wakes up thinking about vangs, trim codes, and factory stampings. Because it's not a job, it's his identity. But how long can one man carry the weight of so many memories? That's the question no one dares ask. Graveyard Carz will someday outlive Mark. The cars will roll. The cameras will record. But the soul, the obsessive, unforgiving soul behind it all, can't be replaced, because Mark Worman doesn't restore for fame. He restores because something inside him needs to bring these machines back to life. And in doing so, he's preserved more than just metal.